today I'm going to be diving into and talking about one of the hottest and maybe the most controversial topics in the creative world. Of course, it's AI art. Now, over the last year or so, AI art has pretty much taken over. It's made some massive leaps and bounds. A lot of people have been left feeling worried, apprehensive, excited, or somewhere in between. But the big question is it a threat or is it a real opportunity? Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know for me it's a massive opportunity, because without AI art, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. As you might know, most, if not all of my art is AI generated, and I actually use that to get the starting point for all my work. And in this video, I'm going to explore 5 or 6 main points that I've found from other people. I've took 2 thoughtful perspectives from 2 YouTubers that I really respect and I love watching the content. One is Kelsey Rodriguez and the other one's Adam Duff of LucidPixul. I love watching their videos. Both total polar opposites. Kelsey is, well, I'm going to say traditional artist just because it's easier for me to think about a traditional artist in such that she paints on a canvas or a board with paints, that type of way. And Adam, he's a digital artist, so he uses, I'm not exactly sure of the technology, but he actually uses like a pen and he draws it on a tablet, and it's just amazing stuff. It's digital art. So you've got like the fine art, which is Kelsey, and then you've got the digital art perspective, and both wonderful channels. And I just thought it'd be interesting to get their take. They're big hitters on YouTube when it comes to the art. And yeah, so grab yourself a beverage, get settled in, because I might go off on this one a bit. When I've done the research for today's video, I've watched quite a few videos on YouTube, and as I say, I watch both their channels quite a lot. And I think Kelsey's touched on it once or twice, and Adam's gone into it quite a lot of times, and he's done podcasts and other bits and pieces. But I've just homed in on two of my favourite videos from them on the subject. And the first point I want to bring up is one from Kelsey, and it's like, AI is unstoppable now, but it's, it isn't all bad. I mean, Kelsey kind of, in her video, she emphasises that AI art's here and we should kind of embrace it, because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think her phrase was, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And she's absolutely right. It's here to stay. So I think as artists, we should embrace it. I mean, people did say, oh, we should pause with the whole AI thing. I think Elon Musk did, but sometimes that doesn't work. I mean, look at the Industrial Revolution. When that started, the momentum just kept going and going and going. And look at the progression we had over the last 100 years or so since the Industrial Revolution. The human species has come on leaps and bounds. And what's AI going to do for us? Is it going to be like that in the next 20 or 30 years? Are we going to get massive leaps? No one knows. So that's why it's exciting. And like Kelsey does talk about that, she brings in the historical shifts like the Industrial Revolution, and it turned the world upside down, reshaping jobs, societies and everything. And I think that's a really exciting thing. In the short term, there might be some pain, if you lose your job, because AI can do it, but it's a bit like the Industrial Revolution and farming, and there was other jobs that needed doing. So something will always be created. You're never ever just going to replace the human. So why does this all matter? Well, often new technology feels terrifying because of the uncertainty, and I think that's why lots of artists are worried, because they're just uncertain about it. But if we look back at history, which we can only do, such breakthroughs spark new opportunities. So I think artists should really, really fall for it, go straight into AI art and embrace it. But my takeaway, I think it's just good news for me. As you know, I use it for my art, so I think it's really, really good news. So the next thing I picked up was one of Adam's points, and it was very, very, very spot on in my view. It's about identity, not just the art. Adam's big theme in part of the video that I watched, it was that the real creativity and artistry actually comes from the human identity of the artist. He talked about his tattoos on his arms and the kind of connection he had with the artist who was doing the tattoos, the conversations and that, which I totally get. And he drew an analogy to a forgery video he watched, and when he was saying like the forgery itself isn't actually too bad, it's okay. The actual brushstrokes and someone copying someone's brushstrokes and the painting is fine, but it's just when they come at the end and they claim that it's by the actual artist, when they say this is actually a piece by such and such, then it crosses the line. So it's okay to use it as inspiration and use it in style, but it's when you cross the line almost. So if I'm understanding him rightly, and I could be wrong, but what I took from that video, how I saw it, is that if AI tries to replicate the artist's style, then claim to be that artist, that crosses the line, as it were. That's not very good. But if the AI, if I just tell our AI I want a painting that's very atmospheric, moody lighting, dramatic contrasts of light, painterly textural brushwork, as almost a story-driven imagery, strong compositional design. What I've explained there, if you was looking at one of Adam's paintings, that's how you describe it. So is it wrong if I use all those words to create one? Because that's one of Adam's paintings when you describe it. So it's very much a grey area. If I was then to go on and say this is an Adam Duff digital painting, then yeah, that's totally wrong, isn't it? But if I was to say it was a Silverpunk painting, I don't think that is there anything wrong with that? I don't think there is, because I haven't said do it like Adam Duff. I've just explained what I've wanted. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a difficult one, this, for me. I think what he was trying to get at was the tools are harmless in themselves, but trying to use them to impersonate or steal an artist's unique voice, as it were, or identity is very wrong. And I do get that. I do get that. But we've got to think here. I mean, Michelangelo stole from Leonardo. Raphael stole from Michelangelo. They all took inspiration from each other. And I think it was Picasso. I could be wrong. I think he gets misquoted sometimes. But good artists, what was it? Good artists steal. Good artists borrow. Great artists steal. Something like that. So I think we have to be careful how we go about this and how we word this. But I mean, there was another positive spin he put on the AI when it come up to researching what kind of art you wanted to do, and collecting references for some of your artwork. You can simply prompt AI to bring up what references, generate some broad ideas and references to do an artwork when you're actually creating one. So I think he kind of like, yeah, he can seize its place, but he's very dead against it copying someone's work and then passing it off, which we all are, aren't we? But I just wondered what he'd think about my work, where I'll give AI. If you've seen some of my videos, I'll give the AI some starting points, a bit like I've just almost described. I want an atmospheric, moody lighting, painting texture, that type of thing, to create an image of, say, a witch or something, which I know Adam's done. Looking at his website, is that he's got a very cool, I think it's a bride witch or something, very, very cool. But I could basically generate a prompt that does that type of work and not even mention his name. So I think it is a real difficult area. Would I be stealing, or would I just be taking inspiration from Adam on that one? Something to think about. Now, Adam goes on to say that people don't just buy the piece of art or watch a video or support a creator purely for the thing itself, purely for the piece of art they create. They crave a connection to the person's experience and personality. And I think he's 100% right there. I watch people on YouTube, and it's for almost for the journey that I go on, to see the actual piece of art being made from the beginning, the idea, the conceptualization, and then you see them go through all the different processes, what they've got to work out to actually make the item. And it's a bit like why you treasure antiques, why you like a piece of jewelry if it's been passed on through a family through the years as a backstory, as it's a romantic type of thing. And it's the same with like fine art. The first thing with antique pieces of fine art, they want what they call provenance, and basically that's just the backstory of the picture. I mean, the first thing antique dealers do, they turn it over to the back to have a look, see if there's any gallery labels or any other writing on the back of the frame to see where that painting's been. So what do we kind of take from it, and why does it matter? Well, when everything around you is automated, AI can't replicate life experience or your story or the joy or the grief or the creative journey the artist goes on. It never will. It can't and it never will. And that's what people buy into. I certainly do. And I hope people buy into that with my art. I hope they see the process I go through and what I do. And I think he's spot on. When everything around is overly automated, we kind of value the handmade stuff a lot more, and so we should. And even if AI continues, they can't make it by hand, can they? So there'll always be a place for authentic stories, stuff made by hand, and AI isn't going to change that. And it's, instead of, I think what we need to take from it is, instead of trying to compete with AI, let's focus on the other. But as real people, what we bring to the table, we bring humanity, we bring the identity of the artist. So if you're worried about AI going to overshadow you, don't. There's a huge audience for people out there who aren't just interested in the thing, they're interested in the person and the backstory. So I think that's what we need to try and keep our eye on when we start worrying about AI. As I say, I use AI all the time. It's an integral part of my art. But I'm sure that, and I hope the people buy into me and into my whole process, because I take the AI image and I make it into something tangible you can hold in your hand, a piece of silver with that artwork on. And I do it in my way. I sandcast it, I get my hands in, and it's a piece of sculpture. And yeah, and I think that's what he brings up. The humanity is the real value, the actual, the artist, the hard artists themselves. And I think he's absolutely spot on right there. Now, in Kelsey's video, she goes on to kind of think up a scenario, and she kind of plays devil's advocate and goes, well, what happens? What's the worst case scenario? What happens? What happens if every single creative job is replaced by AI? But she argues that it's just not practical. It's not going to happen. But if it did, I mean, the jobs would just get replaced. The artists would do something else. They'd band together. They'd do their own handmade. Like I was just saying about Adam's last point, they'd do all handmade stuff, and it'd just make that niche more sought after, and it'd lift it up. It'd make it even more better, because if everything was AI created, the handmade stuff and the actual artists doing it by hand, they're going to be elevated, aren't they? It's going to be a whole lot more. I mean, the trouble with the world that we live in, the economy and the culture, they thrive on choice, don't they? Consumer choice. And it's normally human driven markets. And it just comes down to who's going to be the consumer, what you're using it for. Companies are in it to make money. So obviously, if they can do everything cheaper by using AI, they're going to do it, aren't they? I mean, look at Disney. You could make, I'm sure Kelsey brings up the point about Disney. In theory, you could train it, if everything was up on offer, you could train it on all the old Disney movies, and it could generate you a Disney movie down the line. You could get the next blockbuster. I can't see it happening. I can see the political forces getting involved, and that just won't happen. But say if it did, then surely wouldn't it elevate the people who did it by hand, who rather than being generated by a computer, wouldn't it, the voiceover actors, the actual people who do the graphics, wouldn't they get more kudos? Wouldn't that be lifted up? Because you could sell it as like, this is all done by humans, no AI. So I think, yeah, AI can do incredible things, but the idea that every person in the creative field is going to come obsolete overnight, it's just not going to happen. It's just fantasy. So, but if that did, let's just go with it. If it actually did happen, you got to think, as one door closes, we're going to find new ways to adapt and experiment and pivot. So creatives will just move into new territories and just take it to the next level. And I totally agree with Kelsey. I really do. I think she makes a really good point there. If the proverbial hits the fan, as it were, for us with the old AI, that's all that happened. And I can't see it happening. As I keep saying, I use it all the time, and I think it's wonderful. Without it, I'd be very much limited on what I could do, because I'd have to actually try and do the art myself, which I'm not that great at. I'm more a sculptor, a sandcaster, a silver pourer. Or I'd have to go and find people and say, oh, could you make this for me? Can you do that for me? It's a bit like, I'd love to do one of Adam's pieces, as I mentioned a bit earlier. He's got like this bride, this on his website. this ghoulish bride, and I'd absolutely love to make that into a 3D sculpture, a 3D real tile, high relief silver panel. It'd look fabulous, and that's what I'd have to do. I'd have to reach out to artists and and ask them to say, "Oh, can I use this? Can I use that?" And I've done it in the past. I've actually done that to AI artists, people who generate AI art. I've reached out to them and said, "Oh, I love your generations. I think they're absolutely superb. Would you allow me to use some of them to make into 3D sculptures, into art panels?" And on the whole part, lots of them, I'd say all of them. I can't think of one who said no. And I think collaboration and working with other artists is the way to go. It's sharing, isn't it? I think it's really, really cool. And I think, as I say, going back to the point, I went a bit off on a tangent there. Kelsey's spot on. We'll just pivot into new creative territories and ways of doing things. So I think the main takeaway I can glean from both their videos, and having some thought about it myself, I think Adam touches on it more in the video that I saw. His final kind of message, when used ethically, it's an amazing AI is an amazing tool. It can speed up your workflow. It can help with your research, generate reference images in literally seconds. It's just supercharged. I mean, he did give an example when he was trying to do this one composition, and it's a fantastic piece. It's got some maidens swimming underneath the water and all the hair's flowing, and they're trying to drown this guy. It's really, really cool. It almost reminds me in some way of the pre-Raphaelite stuff, when you see the ladies floating. It's just classic. It's just lovely image. But he said it took him absolutely ages to find all the references he needed, all the reference material. Now, I'm pretty sure, and like he alluded to it himself in the video, with AI, if you used AI, you could get them like that. You could get 20, 30 just spat out instantly, and he could really hone it and get what he needed. And just imagine that you can use those 20 images, remix them how you want, and inject your own storytelling and your artwork, your humanity, your identity into it, and then you've just got AI has just helped you brainstorm something that could take weeks. So I think you've got to embrace AI as a complement to your work, and still focus on that human aspect. And that's what I try to do. AI gives them my starting image, and then I take that starting image off the computer and I make it into something tangible, something you can touch. And I make it into a 3D sculpture. First, I make it into a 3D print. I print it off, then I make the impression in the sand. So there's lots of processes, and yeah, I think it's something we need to really push on with, and we have to be careful, because, like, obviously the main takeaways is you don't want AI to create. You don't want people using AI to create forgeries and copies, like we've touched on before. I mean, you can't have people making digital art and saying it's by such and such an artist when it isn't, because that's just wrong. That's just blatant forgery, and that can't happen. I don't think there's anything wrong with using artists as inspiration. Nothing wrong at all, because that's happened throughout the art world, as we've discussed. So ultimately, I think what it comes down to is, where does it leave us? Well, it comes down to, yes, AI is advancing very, very quickly, and you can't get it back in the bowl. It's just going to carry on. So you got to embrace it. It's going to shake up lots of different industries, not just the art world, and the whole world as a whole. Does it mean it's deaf to human creativity? No, not by a long chalk. Very far from it. Um, Identity theft, like I've just touched on, that's a line that shouldn't be crossed. That might need some legislation. You know what I mean, don't you? Might need some laws. Um, but AI, it can be an incredible tool, offering more creative freedom and speed and variety than more for. You can work through more ideas more quick. So I think ultimately the humanity part, again, like Adam's spot on so many places. I mean, I don't agree with all of it, but it's spot on quite a bit. I think you need to treat AI as a partner rather than a rival, and work with it. And I'd like to hear from you. What do you think? Are you fitting AI into your creative process? Are you anxious? Are you excited? I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. If you want to see how I use AI to make my pieces of art, check this video here, as this is a pretty cool one. Thanks for listening.